Hello, hello. All right, cool. Well, we do have a pretty jam-packed hour today. So I'm just going to go ahead and get it started. Yeah? All right.
Sounds good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pia's Office Hours. My name is Alyssa Castro, and I'm the Director of Partner Success here at Pia, as well as your moderator for today. Hosting our session is Nathan Peabody, Director of Strategic Partnerships, and Thomas McCaffery, Product Specialist. And we also will have a guest partner joining us later to share their perspective and answer any questions that y'all may have for someone who is relevant for this title. I'll kick things over to them in just a bit, but a couple of housekeeping things first. So, what are we doing? These office hours are designed to be a space for connection, collaboration, and shared learning. This is our third office hours. So, if you are here for a first or second, welcome back. And you'll notice that your feedback from previous sessions has definitely made an impact. We do take that feedback very seriously, so please stay tuned after this session to take a quick survey so we can continue to make these office hours tailored for this community that we're building. So for today, you can expect us to run a full hour, and we also do have our chat feature open, so you have the option of either keeping your comments and questions private to us or making them public to the rest of the attendees as well. You can do whatever you'd like there. Now, for our agenda today, we're focused on custom creations. So we'll discuss what it is, why it is. We'll get into a demo. We're aiming to show you two different custom automations that we commonly come across that y'all will be voting on. I'll put the poll in the poll section in just a bit. And then after we do the demo, our guest partner will join us and share their journey and their perspective working with Pia and specifically doing some custom creations themselves. And then they'll also join us for Q&A and an open discussion guided by your live comments. Then, of course, we'll end with that short survey to gather your feedback for future office hours. With all that said, you do not necessarily have to wait until the live Q&A/open discussion segment of today to submit your questions and comments. As your moderator, I'll be monitoring these live, and as appropriate, we'll address them in real time. So let's get started. Nathan and Tom, it's all yours.
Wonderful. Can everybody hear me okay? The green thing is around my face, so I think we are good. Okay. And hey, Garrett, I see you here, man. And don't worry, I'll be reaching out to you. It's been too long, but it's good to see you here as well. All right, let's get started. So custom packages, custom creations. So as we all know, out of the box, Pia has well over 60 automations that we offer you, which kind of gets you started, right? Those are kind of baseline things that most MSPs do on a day-to-day basis. The power comes from custom creation. That's where you start getting into the real meat of the things that Pia can do, the deep integration. And we find that the growth of actual adoption and getting things into the hands of your technicians really comes from the way of custom automation. So what it does is it allows you to build things that are very specific to your MSP, to your business that others may not need. And then you can take them, things that you do on a routine basis. So I often tell people that when you're looking to find ways or find things to build, listen to your desk. Listen to the things that they bring up a lot and say, you know, I can't believe I have to do this again today, or I have to do this one 5 times this week. Well, those, what would seemingly be a complaint, really aren't. They're actually a cry for help. And that's where you can say, you know what, we can automate that. And we can automate it through Pia. So just something to consider as part of the day-to-day, that this is something that you can do to make it happen, to make it even better. And then what's coming to help you. So we have the ability to help you create custom automations and go off and make those very specific to your MSP. But also coming up in Automation 20, we're going to be able to, rather Platform 20, we're going to actually be introducing the Automation Hub, which is a catalog or a library of custom automations that are pre-built for you, that are either low or no code, that you can put into your tenant by downloading. And there'll be some tweaks, of course, that are going to be very specific to what you'll need. But for the most part, you'll be able to just put them into your tenant and start using them, making it very attractive to then introduce custom automations without even having to do too much. So those two things, and it kind of encompass exactly what we're doing here. We want to emphasize what are custom automations and why are they important, and how to do it. So without further, I'm going to hand it over to my friend Tom. Tom, product specialist here, been with PIA as long as I have, if not even longer, and have been doing this for quite a while. So Tom, take it away, and let's see how this works.
Nathan, thank you so much. And hey, everyone, good day, good evening to you. A lot of you will know me, some of you may not, but as the team said, I'm one of the product specialists here. So I do a lot of the kind of technical training. And a lot of the time that does revolve around the ability to create packages. That's what I enjoy to do here. So I take a lot of you guys through. And it really does unlock a lot of that potential as well, because PIA comes with a lot of stuff, but its real strength is the fact that it is an automation platform where you can build these really intricate workflows. You can go really as deep as you want. The examples we have here are relatively surface level, relatively simple, but it still shows you the kind of power that you can kind of unlock. Now, the poll has been running for a few minutes here. I basically built 4 automations kind of ahead of time that I want to take you guys through. One of each type of thing that's kind of there. And I wanted to give you guys the ability to essentially pick which one you wanted to see, right? Keep me on my toes. Let's see if I can actually see if we can actually do this. And it looks like the one that won by a decent mile, which I figured might be the case, is a SmartForm that is configured to add a user to a conditional access policy within Entra. Obviously, the world of security being what it is at the moment, and people typically traveling kind of traveling the world for work, an awful lot. These policies are in place everywhere. Like, you've probably got a whole bunch of clients that use them. And one of the very common tasks that we've heard is people having to add or remove people from these policies. Whether that's creating a policy, adding a country to it, adding a user to it, adding a group to it, whatever. There's a number of different ways you can manage it. We're going to go on one of the simple ways today. We're basically going to select a user, and we're going to select a policy, and we're going to automate the adding of that through the PIA portal, so that your engineers don't have to do that anymore. So let me see if I can work out how to share my screen in Zoom, and we will dive in and start taking a look. As we go through, do feel free to continuously add questions to the Q&A or chat or anything like this. I'll see if I can answer them as we go. Otherwise, we will definitely have some time for it at the end as well. So we go ahead and share my screen here. It should be this one here, I believe. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see that. Someone throw me some angry faces in the chat if you can't. And let's kind of dive in. Now, first things first, I actually want to talk a little bit about conditional access policy, because although we're going to look at the code, we're going to see how this is run, and we're actually going to run it as well, just to show that it all works. This actually showcases something else that's been added relatively recently that, again, just unlocks a whole kind of area of potential. And that is the advanced delegate consent. What a lot of you may or may not know is that when you are setting up a particular client in PIA, obviously we connect to the Graph API to connect into their environment, but we can also grant additional delegate consents to areas of the portal of the environment that PIA doesn't natively have access to. So one of these areas being conditional access. Now, if I do want to grant this for my client, all I have to really do is jump into the client dashboard here. I'm going to go to new consent here on the right-hand side. Traditionally, you had these kind of 8 options you could pick from. There was a way to do it before then. It's kind of like a console command code in the console of the browser. It wasn't very fun. But now we have this really handy little menu here. So if I want to add any additional permissions to PIA, anything that I wanted to touch at all, I go ahead and hit add. I can pick the application that I'm using. So you've got like every application here through the Graph API itself, which is hundreds. You've got things in here for SharePoint. So if you want to manage SharePoint sites and data, OneDrive stuff, you can just go ahead and add that into PIA and allow it to be able to do that with a little bit of custom work. Now, all we basically did ahead of time is I went to the Graph API and basically added the ability to read and write conditional access policies. Obviously, you can see there is a read access there as well if you wanted to be able to pull information, but not necessarily give PIA the ability to write and change things. So it is very granular, and you do get a lot of control there. As we can see from this delegate here below, this is something I've already done. So this is what we'll be using to actually make those changes. Now, let me go ahead and hop into a sandbox. We'll use the office hours automations here. And we'll go ahead and just build this out. Now, of course, this one is relatively simple. We're going to take a user, we're going to take a policy, and we're basically just going to add them to it. I will talk you through all the steps as we go, and obviously we'll run it so you can see what that looks like. But I'm going to talk about a few kind of handy tips as we go through as well. Goes without saying, by the way, if this does look interesting to you, you want to get your hands on this code or anything like that, feel free to screenshot as we go. That's absolutely fine. But if you do want a copy of this particular automation that I built in your tenant just to play with it and enhance, feel free to send an email to our support team, and I'll be happy to copy that in for you. If you do want to copy that. So we'll head into our package editor here. Here you can see a copy of all of them. So if we have some time, I will go ahead and build or just go through one of the other ones that we have in there as well. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to open this one up. Now, I'm not going to build it strictly live just because there is a lot of PowerShell in here, but we're going to run through it piece by piece. I'll explain why every piece is in there, and then we'll run it, make a few changes, make sure it works, and kind of talk about how each step works and why each step is there and everything like this. So we'll add this one here. So adding user to a conditional access policy. Now, if you're relatively familiar with peer automations in here, a lot of this is going to look really familiar to you. If anything doesn't, obviously feel free to ask, but just as a quick rundown for you guys who haven't seen this editor before, we use YAML as the structure for our automations. You actually have access to 3 editors in here, the exact same tools that our developers use when they're actually building and creating the automations that you've seen, the SmartForms, the chatbot automations, anything that kind of runs in the background. That's all built in these tools here, and we can actually provide copies of our packages to you guys if you're interested in reading those and using them for inspiration. The package itself is kind of like the bones, the skeleton, the structure of what we're telling Pia to do. Basically tells Pia how, where, and what to do when the package is kind of activated. Activity editor we'll take a look at today as well. That's basically just a PowerShell encapsulation. So that's PowerShell functions and individual activities. And then the form editor is, of course, any kind of form or visual element that you're going to see as well. Basically, everything is universal. So I'll actually talk a little bit about that as we go, but know that you can build a package one way and basically just switch it across to another one. So you can build it as a chat, then turn it into a smart form. Build it as a smart form, then turn it into a schedule so that it runs something in the background. All of these things are kind of possible with Pia. Now, I'll take you through, as I said, kind of top to bottom here, and we'll talk about why each step is in here and why I've done things the way I have. Some of the PowerShell aficionados among you will immediately recognize some errors I've made in my PowerShell code, something that's potentially a little inefficient or something that you shouldn't do a certain way, to which I say, you're probably right. But this is the only way I know how to do some of these things. So this is the way I'm going to do it. If you do want to take it and improve it, please do absolutely feel free. So right here at the top, just as a quick rundown, we have our client filter. There's no additional filters I've added in here, so it's basically just supported by all clients at the moment. We have our SmartForm condition as well. This basically tells Pia how and where to show itself, to make this package available. So we have it as a SmartForm. We have the title being the travel policy update, the description being use me if a member of staff is traveling outside the US, and then we have a little plane as our icon. Now we will of course see that in a little bit when we run this live. What I have done as well is I've left the chat condition I had when I was testing this. I've actually left this in here because I want to show you how easy it is to move from one type of automation to another. We'll actually come back to that in a little bit. So that's telling Pia how the automation runs, or where the automation is made available. These steps below, these determine what Pia is actually going to do when that automation comes along. Now, despite this actually being the longest one of the demo ones, probably the most complex, even though it's still relatively simple, I'm glad this is the one people voted for because this encapsulates a whole bunch of additional logic that you don't necessarily see in some of the simple ones. Some of the things like skip or conditions, maybe only running certain steps on certain previous conditions. Maybe, hey, maybe I want to do this step if they selected one thing, but if they selected the other option, I want to go over here and I want to do this step instead. So we will see that a little bit more as we kind of go down. So first things first is I'm actually just going to retrieve the authentication token for that delegated policy. Pia has a built-in task for this. All I have to provide it is the scope that I want to retrieve, in this case being the policy.readWrite.conditional access. So this is essentially going to go off to whichever client I'm running this for. At the moment, I'm using my own personal kind of demo client, which is called TomTech. But if I was running this against any client, it would look at their delegates specifically. So it is going to be dynamic in which client it's looking at. So I don't have to provide a client ID or a username or anything like this. It knows where to look and it knows how to grab that. This then essentially returns a single output. So again, for those of you who aren't familiar, the way each task will work is essentially has a number of inputs that it uses to control the behavior, inputs, which user we're editing or anything like this. It will do what it needs to do, and then it will return to you an output. This is the success value. This is the data you sent it to retrieve, or anything like this. In our case, it is a token value, which essentially is the bearer token for the Graph API, which we're going to be using to authenticate our connection. Then I have to consider the order of operation of what I want to do here. Inside my SmartForm, I want to present both a live list of users and a live list of policies. So I have to gather both of those pieces of information ahead of time. Now, the first one is actually incredibly simple. A lot of these things here that you see in terms of, something that's quite common that Pia does, such as retrieving a list of users, a list of groups, mailboxes, OUs, resetting a password, generating a password, updating a list of groups, all this kind of thing that's really basic, really general kind of user admin. Pia has built-in activities to do that. It's actually nearly 400 of these. Far more than, we always say there's all this, like, I can't remember what the number is. They say it's like 60 or 90 or so automations out of the box. That is just fully formed built automations. There are nearly 400 of these pre-built activities, which you can just add in. In my case, I've added one here called Azure Get All Users. I've added one line to my package here. But when I run this step, when it gets to this point, it's going to run this activity here. If I can move it around a little bit so Zoom's not obscuring my tabs there. And it's going to run this package here. Oh, there you go. It's actually not available for editing. I'll show you this one instead. This one here, it's going to run this PowerShell code for me. Now, this is PowerShell code that has been generated by Pia and is maintained by Pia. So if anything goes wrong with it, anything gets deprecated, you don't have to worry about it. That's on us to update it. So whenever you're trying to build something that just gets a list of users, you use something like this, and that step's done. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to do the authentication. You don't have to build that from the ground up. You can just use these kind of pre-built blocks. And that's exactly what I've done. So I've used that pre-built block there, and that's going to return me a couple of different arrays of data. We've got guests, members, and users, and we'll see what those arrays of data look like in a little bit. Next up, I have some inline PowerShell. So I have a little PowerShell script here, and what this is designed to do is go to the Graph API using that bearer token that I've had before. You can actually see the input of it being ingested into my PowerShell just here. It's going to use that, and it's going to go ahead and get a list of policies from the graph for me. Now you can see, if you're familiar with REST API, it's relatively basic. This is the URL that I'm connecting to here, which is just the standard Graph API. If you're familiar with the Graph Explorer, it's going to show in there. I'm using a simple GET request, which is just retrieving information. The headers are simply just containing the bearer token that I passed in from my task before. And it's now going to have a list of my policies. Fantastic. Easy peasy, right? 4 lines. Now, that's not immediately everything I need to do. I have my list of policies, but they may not necessarily be in the format that I want them in. Graph doesn't know what we're trying to do. It's just going to give us all the information we need. And we're going to see that. And we'll see that kind of before and after. But what I want to do is I've got this little kind of block here that's basically going to go through every policy that's been returned. I think in my demo environment, I only have about 3, but every policy that's returned. And it's going to add it to 2 separate arrays. The first is simply called returned policies, which, looking at this script, I actually ended up removing and not using, but we'll see it all the same. And the second one is called policy list. Now, policy list is actually what I'm going to be providing in my form. So I built it in a certain way. I basically said the text, which is what's going to just be displayed in the form itself, and we'll take a look at the form in a moment, is going to be the display name of the policy. And then the value is going to be the ID. The ID is actually what I'm going to need to use when I go ahead and update that object. So I've got this little for each loop. It's basically going to run through and build that array for me for every single one that's in there. Again, there are multiple different ways to do this in PowerShell. I'm taking you guys through my way, which is probably almost certainly going to be the worst way to do it. But the idea is to understand that this is basically just, it's a PowerShell script, right? Any script that I have that I'm used to using, if I have something that can do it already, I can just import that in here. I can just use that in here, and it's going to be able to perform that task for me automatically. One of the other things I'm also going to do, I've basically got the exact same loop going on below for the list of users. So we ingested that list of members from our user script here as well. And again, that returns a huge amount of information, not all of it necessarily being what I want. So I'm basically going to loop through that list. I'm going to exclude anyone who's disabled. I don't want any disabled users in my list here. So I'm going to get rid of the disabled users, and I'm going to add them to this user list array in the exact same format, text and value. which essentially is just going to be their display name and their the UPM. But again, we will see both of these. Finally, I'm basically going to construct an array called formDef using this name here. Now, this is essentially what I'm using to map my array of data into a particular field in the form. And to understand what that's doing, let's actually jump into the form and let's take a look at what we're actually going to be displaying to the client and why I've named them the way I have. So if we jump over to our form editor here, you can see we have select user and policy. This is the one I'm doing. And in here, we have a select user and a select policy field. Now, if we look at these, we can actually see these have just placeholder tags in them. I don't want that to be provided to my user. Of course, that's not going to be particularly helpful to them. So each of these fields has a reference name. This name is how Pia identifies that field at a programmatic level. So this one's called user list. The other one's called policy list. These names match the entries in this array here. So I'm saying the field with the name user list retrieves or displays the array of user list, policy list for policy list. So I created two separate arrays, mapped them to two separate fields, and then I'm basically going to display them using this input here called formDef. So here we then have our SmartForm interaction. We have the form name that we're going to be displaying, which is the form I just showed you, which we'll take a look at in a moment. And then we have the formDef, the dynamic data that I want to display, and that's going to be here in formDef. And also have the chatbot interaction in here as well, which again, I will come to in a little bit. Now, before we go too far, let's fire this off. Let's see what this does in the SmartForms portal itself, and see how it looks. See why we have to do those particular steps. Now, one thing you will notice as you go through and you have a play with this, lots of things can be tested in the sandbox. SmartForms is not one of those things because it's external access. So what I need to do is I'm just going to go ahead and promote this to live out of my sandbox into the live environment. If that does sound a little scary, don't worry. SmartForms are all opt-in, so there's no harm or danger of being immediately available to everyone before you've tested it. We'll go into our SmartForms portal here. We'll go into our clients. I'll find my aptly named TomTech here. We'll go to the forms and let's just turn on the travel policy update. Oh, there you go. It's actually already turned on. I'd imagine it's probably because I had it in there earlier for testing. And there we go. Let's jump into the portal. Let's see what this looks like. And let's just get to that point so we can see exactly what the user sees and why I had to run those steps before getting to my actual SmartForm itself. So there it is at the bottom. There's our travel policy update. There's our little plain icon. You can actually use anything from Font Awesome when you're building these, so do feel free to use anything, have a bit of a play with it. We'll go ahead and fire this off. This is going to create the ticket for me, obviously, in the system as well. I can obviously control what that ticket does because I'm using SmartForms, what board, status, priority, all that kind of stuff can be done. It's now going to be actually retrieving the policies in the user for me at this step here, which we can actually see. It might finish by the time we actually get in here. But while a package is running, you can actually see that in live packages. Pay no attention to the bug that I found earlier with the scheduled automation. In here, you can see all the individual steps that we're running individually. Right? There's our PowerShell. There's our get all users. There's our delegated token that we retrieved as well, which we will take a closer look at in a moment. And here's our form. So we've got, please select the user. Now our placeholder is gone, replaced with a live list of the enabled users. And under our policy, we have the conditional access policies from my Entra account. So we've got the default one of require MFA for admins. I've got a TomTech one that I was using for testing. And then we've got this travel policy here that allows logins from outside the US. That's the one that I'm going to want to be training. Now, before we go too far, I'll select this and I'll go ahead and select my user here. I've added one more thing in here as well, because I really wanted to show you guys how to do this. I've added the ability to either run things immediately or schedule this for later, and then the user can then pick a date and time when they want this to take effect. Now, as a basic example, I've just hit the start date, but of course, I could quite easily add the end date to this as well, so that they can pick when someone's leaving, when someone's returning, have their access policy updated throughout that portion of time so that they don't have any issues logging in, and then have it removed when they get back. All automated through Pia. Engineers don't have to touch the ticket or go into the environment to do anything. So again, really powerful stuff. I realize I'm running short on time a little bit. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to fire this off, and then we're going to see exactly what that looks like. So we'll schedule it for later. For me right now, it is 9:24. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule this for 9:20. Ooh, 9:20. Go for 26. I don't think I'll be able to get in just in time. Oh, 9:26. There we go. So we'll go ahead and hit submit. That's, of course, going to put all the information in the ticket. I don't have to worry about auditing it. That's all been done. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. But I did want to show you guys just quickly why we have to manipulate that data and just how many things are actually done inside the environment. So if we take a look at let's go to the inline PowerShell here for get policies. If I take a look at the variables, we open this and we grab the all policies item that we created here. If I throw this into a linter so we can see what the data looks like, in here you can see all of the items that are actually returned every time I query this, and these are all items that I can update in the same manner. Now these are huge. These are quite big. For those of you who configure conditional access policies, you'll know that it is a very complex animal to have to deal with. There's a lot of things to do in there, and you have to be very careful about what you do. I'm not going to name any names, but there has been events in the past where misconfiguration of this will lock you out of the tenant. And if that's the case, it's incredibly difficult to get back in. Right? Obviously, if you could bypass them easily, it wouldn't be very good security policies. So they have to be pretty absolute. So if that happens, it can lead you in pretty hot water. So this sort of process here, if you wanted to update it purely through PIA, you can control those elements that will get updated. There's not going to be a misclick. There's not going to be a mistake. Oh, I thought it was this. They're going to be locked within certain parameters, and you're going to have full control of those. So there's a lot of information in here to kind of control. The one that we're going to be updating specifically is it's users roles. It's going to be conditions, users, and then included users. Now this, as you can see, doesn't actually use UPM for users. It actually use the object ID of that user as well. So what I actually had to do, if we return to our package here, I'll take you through it. This one here. What I had to do is write in an additional clause in there to grab that object ID of the user that we're looking at. So we got to our SmartForm. Once that is initiated, once that is submitted, PIA jumps through to the next line down. And here, and this is where we get the kind of that conditional policy or conditional kind of steps that I mentioned before. So we have this inline PowerShell, and this just basically looks at the schedule option. Did they pick immediate or did they pick schedule for later? And if they pick scheduled for later, or if they picked immediately, sorry, we have a skip schedule true in here. So we have a variable called skip schedule set to true if they selected the immediate option. And we can see that's actually leveraged here. So we have a built-in task. This is something built in. You have to worry about coding this. Something built in with PIA called scheduled for later. All I have to do is pass it in a date string, and it will go ahead and schedule this for another time. In this case, I want to skip it if they selected immediately. I don't want to schedule it ahead of time if they chose to do it, do it immediately. That doesn't make sense. So I'm actually going to skip these two tasks here. So what we'll see in the logs is it skips over that step. It doesn't apply them, doesn't do those things. And this is how you can build things to be quite dynamic. It doesn't have to be always linear with PIA when you're building things. You can basically do an if this, then that kind of a situation. If the user synced, then I want to run the changes on the local DC and sync them up to Azure. If the user's in Azure only, I want to skip those steps, make the changes directly in Azure, things like that. So this is what we've been essentially doing to build that. Next up, we also have the stop condition. This basically just stops the package on the event that we are scheduling the package here. And then we have this other block of PowerShell. Now I'll talk you through this one because it's a little bigger than the other one. And again, there are probably much better ways to do this. You're probably looking at this already being like, that's an inefficient way to do that. And I agree. But I'll talk you through exactly what it's doing. So this essentially runs after that point. Once the package has got to its final step of actually making a change, either immediately or on a scheduled point, we have the URL here. This URL, if I actually stretch my screen a little bit here, you can see that's using the ID of the policy that was chosen previously specifically. The policy ID comes from the form submission form. Everything, by the way, every time you submit a form or input any kind of data into PIA, they're all variables which you can add access to. So everything that's put into a form, you basically get access to as a variable point, which you can base arguments on. So we took the policy ID that they put in here. We're going to use that as part of our URL. Obviously, we've got the same graph token here. We actually regenerated it just above, just in case it's been a little while since they submitted the form. And then we have this little extra thing in here, which basically just reconnects to the graph API. But this time, it just retrieves the user ID of the selected user, basically queries the UPM, and then retrieves the object ID, which is what conditional access uses when it's updated. Why they do that and not the UPN, I couldn't tell you, but this is the way it is. So this is what we have to kind of put in place. We basically have a little loop here that basically only adds the user if they're not in there already. We have our little payload here. So this is what we're actually going to be sending to the Graph API. This is what we're actually going to be sending to them to update. And then we have this URL here, which is again, it's actually set just above. I'm not quite sure why I set this twice, but again, my code's pretty bad, so take it out of you. And then we have our response, which is actually going to go ahead and make the change. I actually meant to remove this one because I actually have a try below in here as well. So I'm actually going to try it and return a message that is successfully if it runs successfully. But if it runs to an error for any reason, I've got this try catch in here as well. Those of you who are familiar with try catch will know it's a really good way to essentially catch any errors and return values specifically rather than just have the script error out if it's unable to perform anything. So obviously that's native in PowerShell. It's something I can use in Pia as well. And then it goes through and basically just displays the message right at the end of the chat that says, hey, we added the user to the thing successfully, or we ran to an error, or we actually have a return message here of if they were already in there, there was no changes to make. So we're not going to try and double up or anything like that as well. So we've got this very kind of dynamic flow going on where it gives the user the ability to pick the user, pick the policy they're updating. I mean, depending on how you want to do it, you might not want to display all of them here, especially if there's admin ones in there. Probably wouldn't be great if they could bypass that. But nevertheless, you could essentially make it a static list if you wanted to. This is just the way we built it, just the example today. Hopefully this has been pretty good. I've been timing myself a little bit. I'm about to into my last kind of minute here, so I won't get to show you guys the other ones, but if you do want to see them, or if you do want to have access to them, again, just reach out, let us know. But hopefully this has been beneficial. I know I rambled and I've gone through that quite quickly, but I'll be honest, I'm not very good at coding. You can tell this from my code, right? And the fact that I've got multiple lines in here that shouldn't be in there. But even at my level, and this took me probably about 45 minutes to get a version going. And admittedly, it's a simpler version. But that 45 minutes, or maybe an hour, call it an hour and a half if I did things properly. I did a little bit of testing as well. Compare that to how many times your user has, or your engineers have to go to Entra. They sign in, go to conditional access policies. The hand shakes as they click all users or selected users, because I've seen it happen, right? How many times have they been in that? Have you been worried? Have mistakes been made? It happens. We're human. So let's offload that to Pia. Let's give it the ability to do that. And then my engineers never even have to touch that again. I don't even have to give them the ability to do that. I can lock it down, keep it in Pia, and just make it this self-service option directly from within the SmartForms portal itself. Now, my timer on the screen says I have 10 seconds left. So I'm pretty sure that was a good, it's a good 25 minutes. I'm pretty sure I landed almost exactly there.
That was impressive. That was impressive.
But yeah, hopefully that was all good. If there's any questions, I'll definitely answer those as well.
Yeah. Tom, we did while you were doing this, and phenomenal job. Great job, by the way. You made it make sense for sense. No one asked me these questions, but you did make it make pretty good sense for someone like me who's not technical at all. So great job. I will say we do have about 2 minutes left before our next section. So maybe we can get through one of these questions that our attendees have asked. I'll start with the one that was asked first, and I think you even touched on it, so it may be a quick answer for you. How can we test a custom package before pushing it live?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really fantastic question. So actually, let me share my screen again. I actually want to go through this one because that's something I wanted to touch on if I had the time. So let me reshare this this kind of window here. So in terms of this package specifically, while it's inside a sandbox, admittedly, I can't access the SmartForm. I can't run it there. But all I'd have to do is replace the SmartForm interaction here with this chat interaction. And if we go all the way to the top here, this SmartForm condition here with this chat condition, and then I could then run this in a sandbox on a ticket. When you're inside a ticket, particularly if I go into my my chat box here, you actually have the ability, if you're an admin, you have the level of access. You actually have the ability to go in here and say, right, I want to now enter a sandbox. I want to go in here and pick a sandbox that I'm running in. You will see the version of the package that's inside that sandbox and be able to run it in that environment. It still has external access and can still change and access and do things, but it won't be generally available either in the SmartForms portal or to the engineers. You'll have the ability to test it, tweak it, do what you need to do, and then when you're ready, you can actually just switch them to the two areas back. Honestly, my biggest tip for you guys is I always build anything that I'm building. I build it as a chatbot because I can fire it off every single time I make a code change. every time I want to test what it's doing, I can just fire it off again and again and again without having to go through the entire parent automation if I'm building an extension, or go through the SmartForm portal and have a ticket created if I'm just testing it. Obviously, I don't want to generate 100 tickets, right? Unless I'm trying to stat bump a little bit at the end of the month, get my closed tickets up or something like this. Then maybe you would. But otherwise, doing it as a chat like this is the absolute best way, and you can fully test and get everything you need to do inside the sandbox as part of that flow. So absolutely fantastic
Awesome.
question. And that's how you do that.
Thank you, Tom.
No problem. Anything else we want to answer live before we bring in our guest?
We have a couple more questions, but I think now's a good time to segue to our next section.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Wonderful. So we're about to bring in our guest that we have here today with us. So let's go ahead and bring him in, and I will do a quick intro of our friend. Okay, where is he?
The suspense. Is
Here
going to be there. He
comes.
is.
And voila, we have Sean Oosthuizen from Barone Technologies. Barone is one of our current partners, and absolutely smashing it out of the park. Sean comes with over 15 years experience in the IT industry, and he recently became an AI automation engineer. And in doing so, been working with PIA since day one, and we bring him in here to talk about that journey. I won't digress too far. I'll take just a couple of seconds, but I remember when Barone first came over with PIA and became a partner, right off the bat, they said, we want to come in here and we want PIA to help us with our business, and we want to help you with your business. And so let's make this, mutually beneficial for both of us, work shoulder to shoulder, make this thing happen. And I can't say it's been exactly that up to this point. So it's been great. And we're super excited to have Sean. So everybody, welcome Sean in here with us. Hi, Sean.
Welcome.
Welcome, Sean.
Let's start with a question, Sean. Why not? I'll just fire one at you, and let's see how it goes. So as with anyone building something new, it can be scary, it can be exciting, it can be all those kind of emotions. But I'd love to understand, what are some of the common mistakes partners might make when building their first automation, their first custom automation?
I think you're on mute.
There's
Well,
always
my
one.
apologies. My apologies. Yeah,
It has to happen at least once.
as,
always
as
one.
this computer is just is doing its own thing. So common mistakes for me personally has been typos. So always watch that. Make sure that you put in your objects and your attributes and everything correctly. But I mean, I don't see any issues or any mistakes doing custom automation with Peer. Like if you well versed in PowerShell, all you have to do is just learn a little bit of YAML. And if you grasp the concept of YAML, then you are golden. Like I started working with Peer with no knowledge of all of this. Obviously, I knew PowerShell, but to get a grip on YAML, when I got the grip of that, obviously I got a lot of help from Tom, a lot of help from Kirk, a lot of help from Joel. They showed me the way to do it, and I've been building custom automations for onboarding, for offboarding, and even custom chatbot automations that our techs use just to make their lives a lot easier. But Pierre has been a blessing for our company. Like it's cut time for minuscule tasks. Like for onboarding, we've got a lot of big clients with a lot of third-party applications. They've got a lot of things that needs to be done, and with these applications and everything that they need to be done, it used to take us about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes just to do a simple onboarding for this client, where Pierre has cut this down to like 25 minutes. And then we've got the custom mail triggers that will send the ticket to the PSA. And then you match that with AI triage and some AI analysis rules, which will then assign it to the correct board, assign it to the correct technician. It's got all the information that is built into the body of the custom automation so that everyone knows what needs to be done. There's no confusion. There's no questions back and forth what needs to be done. Everything is there, and everything gets done so smoothly as like a well-oiled machine. And we've appreciated Peer since day one. Obviously, since day one, for me, it was a bit of a learning curve, and I reached out quite a lot. The guys taught me how to use it, and I think I've gotten to a point where like it's working so well. Like it's cut down our time on tickets. We can do more tickets with the custom chatbot interaction that I built. Even that, also, you don't have to log into the partner portal to do minuscule things like give access to OneDrive to a different person, like enable online archiving. Uh, I have built so much custom stuff, and it's been great. And the guys at Peer has assisted me to get this done, and it's been great. Like it's a fantastic product.
So,
Wonderful.
yeah, thank you for sharing, Sean. I think we have a question that's pretty appropriate for what you're talking about right now. Can
Yep.
you give some examples of custom automations that you've built for your techs that have made their lives easier?
So yeah, like I said, in the onboarding, I've actually built in an automation to actually enable online archiving because that's a prerequisite from one of our clients. So that get automatically done. And then we also have in the custom form with the custom package, assigning people to appropriate groups, appropriate SharePoint groups, even signature groups. So that once the automation is done for this new hire, they are assigned to all the appropriate teams and groups and everything. Nothing has to be done. The only thing that needs to be touched on by a tech is hardware. So these tickets get created automatically. It gets assigned to the correct board in the PSA, gets assigned to the correct tech, and it gets done so quickly. And then just for uh, chatbot interactions, like I've created custom automations just to give one user access to another user's OneDrive, blocking email addresses in Defender. There was the also enabling online archiving with the folder assistant, so that runs automatically. So there's no tech intervention required for that at all. But most of our biggest clients, it's mostly the third-party applications, it's the hardware setups. Three of our biggest clients is set up as zero touch. So license procurement is being done through Peer. Uh, all the tickets get sent out. Like the client will submit the form, fill in all the details, it will come through, and the action will run. Everything gets done, and there's no tech intervention required at all.
Great answer,
Incredible.
Sean. I'm curious, this is a question just from me now. You mentioned how many different custom automations you've created and the impact that it's made on the technicians and organization in general for your department. Can you, as an engineer, developer, from your perspective, can you tell us or share with us some of the goals, rocks, um, field post goals, same thing, that your leadership kind of put on you that these solved or that these accomplished? What were those high level goals that y'all were trying to meet?
So the goals were just to make lives, make like our tech's lives a lot easier. You don't want to do the minuscule task manually. And so I've built these kinds of automations, especially in the chatbot automation. So once a ticket gets logged, obviously Peer will show, I can help with this. Click on the option that comes up, you fill in the details where something will take you 10, 15 minutes, like a minuscule task will take you less than 2 minutes. And like I said, I'm still building on these custom automations because I've got a list of custom automations that our techs will put in. It's like, can you build this? We want to do that. This will cut down time on this. I go through it. I build it. Obviously, if I do struggle, then I'll reach out to our master Tom for some insight. And like I said, so far I've been building like I've got a lot of custom automations. I just can't name them off by or the top of my head right now, but I do have them in a spreadsheet. I did see that someone asked if some of these things can be shared. I am in the DevConnect uh, Discord. I'm sorry, I come up as Sean-BTI. So you guys can reach out to me if there's any questions. Like I said, will gladly assist because I enjoy building these things and I'm definitely willing to share and help where I can. And for me, it's quite a bit of fun. Quite a bit of fun.
Yeah. That's a great point. The Discord community for everyone on here, if you haven't joined yet, is a great place to go for all of these things, right? So you're going to interact with partners, you're going to interact with our dev team. Tom pops in there sometimes. I pop in there as just a hat rack. I'm not going to be in there to do much from a technical standpoint, but you can point and laugh. But the team really comes together as a community sharing and really you can look at it as kind of a shortcut into your foray into the custom automation community because you can do things that maybe you hadn't thought of before that others have done. Sean, really quick, for those on the fence, for those that are seeing custom automations and maybe they're for lack of a better term, they're scared of jumping in. They just kind of, they dip their toe in. They go like, oh, I don't know, this might be too complex, or I don't want to blow anything up. I hear that a lot. What would you say to those that kind of have that angst going into this?
Definitely jump into the Discord. Like when I first started with Pia, I threw out ideas out there, and the guys reached out like, you can do it like this. They gave me some of the YAML scripts to actually incorporate into custom automations and into the chatbot interactions. And then from there, obviously, I've built on that. But reach out to the guys in Discord. They'll definitely help you. They'll give you direction. These guys are incredible. It's not just the peer guys, it's the actual community, because there are some guys there that know how peer works and they're quite advanced at that. So if there's any questions, any requests or anything, definitely throw it out in Dev Connect, and they'll be happy to help.
Yeah, and I'll put the link to our Dev Connect in the chat in just a bit. So if you're not a part of it, please do join. And speaking of our Discord, one of our partners who's commonly in Discord and has also shared quite a few of their own custom scripts with the community, is asking a question for all of us and maybe some of the attendees as well. So the question is, well, yes, I'm curious if anyone else is using Pia for machine onboardings and what else others are using Pia for outside of the canned packages. So
That's a good question.
Mhm.
I was about to say, do you want to give your answer? Yeah. Do you want to give your answer from an MSP, then I'll be able to comment a little bit from what I've seen from the community that I work with as well.
Yeah, so unfortunately for us, we don't use Pia for machine onboarding because we don't have the agent installed on all of our client machines. We've literally just used this for onboarding, offboarding, and then the custom automations that I've built. We are still going through the whole process to get this deployed on all the machines so we can actually use all the other AI automations that Pia provides out of the box. So we'll eventually get there. So I think that's definitely a question for the Pia internal team.
Pretty fair, pretty fair. Yeah, that actually hits a really good point. We've had quite a few. I've had quite a few conversations. I know these guys have as well. About the ability to use Pia to onboard user devices. And you get into this little bit of a kind of catch-22 situation where, in order for us to run anything against a user device, we do use our own agent. And if you're going to be deploying our agent to it, then you might as well do a whole bunch of stuff as well, right? We can still manage and deploy software through it. I actually know of a few partners. There's one specifically, the name's not coming to my mind, but they don't use Pia for the kind of initial setup. That's still done through like Intune to deploy the software and get everything registered. But they do use Pia for the first installation and the first setup of that user. So when that user first signs in, they have things like VoIP software, VPN profiles, shortcuts, browser shortcuts, and stuff like this that need to get added. And they're able to run that all through Pia using those kind of local PowerShell scripts. So it's a bit of a yes-no situation where absolutely you can do it. Like anything you can script, you can literally do with Pia. That's the cool thing. Obviously, we have to get the agent in there, which is a little bit of a stepping hurdle. But once it's on there, if there's anything else that needs to happen, just first installation of a machine, registration, setup, or anything like that, then yeah, absolutely, you can, and people have, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We do have one more question that we have open right now. So if y'all have any questions or comments, please submit them through the Q&A section. But I'll touch on this last one that we have right now. And you may need a share screen again, Tom. Is it possible to share custom packages across different clients in PIA? And is there a way to clone or duplicate them?
That is a
Thanks.
good question. Absolutely. So that's a really good one. I'll use a kind of simpler example to kind of show this one. So let me share my my screen here. There we go, I think. There we go. Awesome. All right. So when it comes to building a package in PIA, and in terms of I guess we can take clients in two contexts here, whether that's clients in terms of, I'm supporting 20 or 30 clients that are in PIA and I want them to have the same package and have the same abilities, or clients as in, I have two PIA tenants, two MSPs who talk to each other and want to share resources, right? So I'll answer both just in case. The simplest one is in terms of the clients that you're building for. So if you build something for a particular client, and you're like, this is fab, primo, I want all my clients to have access to this, right? The good thing is you don't need to replicate any work. This client filter here at the top, this actually allows you to filter which clients are supported and therefore available to use this automation here. Now, the most basic use case, actually the default one when you first build a package, it just kind of looks like this. And this doesn't have any restrictions placed upon it. So this package here, this is a pretty simple one about getting free space from a machine. This one here is immediately available to every one of my clients. It's a chatbot, so it'll be in the chat ticket for engineers on every single client, but it's available for all of them. Anything that we're doing, such as getting a list of machines or connecting to that machine, they already operate within a client-specific context. So if I run this for my demo client, it's going to retrieve a list of my machines. Whereas if it was Sean was running it for his clients, for example, they're going to retrieve a list of his machines. So you already have that kind of context built in. So you don't really need to duplicate anything for clients unless there's specific behaviors on a per client basis in here, which you can configure on a per client basis on different forms or inputs if you want to. Usually it's actually more of a case of restricting it down to the clients who actually need access to it, especially since you build something that uses Azure AD Connect or Entra ID Sync, they call it now. You only want that to be supported or be available for the clients that have that technology. So you use tags and you use restrictions to bring it down to just those particular partners. When it comes to sharing resources, so for example, some stuff Sean's built, you see some posts in Discord, and you're like, absolutely, I want some of that. I want that in my tenant. I need to get access to this to have a play with that. The answer right now is it's a little manual. There's a little, obviously you can just kind of copy and paste things. That's no problem at all. You can talk to us and we can help them do things for the back end as well. But I don't know how much we can say about it. Nathan mentioned it, so I feel like I'm okay. He's the one who's trouble if he's not allowed to. The automation hub, once that goes live, will be I don't want to go too far into it. It will be a kind of a hub of being able to get some of these most common things here. There will be a lot of things in there immediately. It will grow exponentially. It'll grow really, really quick. But that will be somewhere you can, hey, someone's built this. Someone's had this. It exists somewhere. I want it. It's going to be there and I'm going to be able to get access to it and just simply hit a button and it's going to be there that I can utilize. Way more information is going to be coming through about that. I think we're actually going to be doing a webinar again when that comes out, so we get to play with it and show you guys all the cool stuff. So I don't want to talk about it too much, but that is the solution on the kind of sharing basis that's going to be coming down soon as well. Hopefully that answers both sides of the questions, depending on what the question was there.
Yeah, I think it's great. And that's actually something that I was going to ask about even further too. That automation hub is going to be a wonderful addition to the product and we're all really excited. And yeah,
absolutely,
maybe we might get our wrist slapped a little bit for if we share too much, but we're just all very excited.
Oh, good. Hey, Tom, really quick, I'm gonna just a 15-second one here. So say I'm a new partner, I'm coming to you, I want to build custom automations. It's our first session together. What can I have prepared? What should I have prepared for our first session together?
Great question.
That is a really good question. That's a really good question. So I would say the best thing to have prepared when you're coming in for us for a training session is what's your first goal? What's your first idea, your first thing you want to hit. Not necessarily the biggest. I've had a few people that come in that say, I want to build an automation that scans through every single email box, takes the contents of every single email, goes to ChatGPT, uploads it there, summarizes it, risk assessments it, comes back. And I'm like, that's kind of a product on its own that you're building there, and you could, but that's going to be pretty heavy. But have a think about the first thing you want to accomplish. Maybe even just the small niggles that bother your service desk, right? To Nathan's point, what are they complaining about? What are they saying? I have to go and do this. Every time I click this button, I have to go do this. I can never verify this thing that's happening. Bring that, because although we have a pretty standard flow that we can utilize in terms of, hey, let's build this automation. We'll kind of use every part of the product, and we'll kind of build something. Well, we're always happy to run that, but it's always a little bit more valuable if we're like, hey, you know what, you've got a goal, let's work towards that. Let's use this as a teaching opportunity, get you as close as you can, and then either, if it's simple, we finish it, fantastic, you have an automation you can start using, or you have the knowledge and the know-how to say, oh, well, we're 50% of the way there, we can do the other 50. Peer's obviously still there if we need support, and then it's done at the end of the day. So I would say that's the biggest thing to think about if you're booking this training, to bring along with us, that we can kind of utilize. Obviously, no pressure. If you just want to come and put your feet up and learn some stuff, then by all means, do that as well. It's a good question. Oh, that's a cool emoji. Look at that.
I feel answered. You have to click the react thing. Excellent answer. Cool. Any other questions? I see no open questions right now. That means that, as I suspect, Tom just did such a wonderful job, and Sean did such a wonderful job of explaining his journey that we didn't leave a whole lot of questions. But of course, if there are questions, you can certainly, we have a minute or two here, but also we are all available, of course, at different capacities as you need. We have our technical friends here, and of course, partner success with Alyssa and myself. So certainly don't hesitate to ask questions outside of this channel as well.
We have a cool comment before we fully wrap things up from Pablo. Tom, we need to have a meeting so I can show you my new machine onboarding automation that can be customized for different clients and departments and uses Datto RMM components and quick jobs. I've almost got it finalized. So sharing, as Sean mentioned, Sean has been doing this a bunch. In Pablo, I know you've been doing it a bunch as well. Whenever our partners create these custom creations, sharing them in Discord, it's really helpful. So that only fully strengthens and betters the entire community. So I want to say, first of all, thank you, Sean, and thank you as well, Pablo, for being willing and open and transparent about what y'all have built on the custom side. That's a thank you from all of our partners in community, and really keep it coming. And we are so excited to share those with the community at large so we can all benefit from this ever growing technology. It's hard to keep track of what all is going on a day-to-day basis. So having the team come together and share these is great.
And
Absolutely.
as we start to kind of roll out here, one of the things that we say a lot internally, and I'm going to add it with an emoji here just to add emphasis. We say a lot, our success is your success, and your success is our success. It is absolutely symbiotic in that way. And we say PIA to the moon. And when we say PIA to the moon, we mean every single one of your logos to the moon with us. So we are super excited to be on this journey with you all. It absolutely is a journey. And we really appreciate you joining here today. And again, any other questions, comments, anything you need, we're only just a chat away. PIA to the moon. And there it is. We're going to the moon.
I keep hitting the react button. It's not working for me. I can't do it. I'm so sad. Why does it not work?
It coded you out of it, Tom. That's what it did.
Been locked out. I've been locked out.
Yeah.
Until I can learn to use emojis responsibly, I'm not allowed to do it.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining our third office hours. These are super exciting. Thank you for joining and being a part of this. And especially a big thank you to Sean for joining us. It's one thing hearing us talk about our product. It's another thing to hear one of our partners share their experience, any blockers that they came across within their experience, what they've been able to accomplish, what those background goals were that sparked all of this. It was really nice hearing your perspective. So thank you, Sean.
It's only a pleasure. Thank you
Thanks,
for
Sean.
having me.
And to all of our attendees, if you're looking for more ways to connect, which I'm sure you are, we've got some exciting events coming up. Next week, we'll be in Miami for Kaseya DataCon. I'll actually be there myself, so please give me a heads up. Would love to see you and meet you. We'll be at DataCon APAC, October 28th to 30th. We'll be at IT Nation in Orlando from November 5th to 7th. And so if you're heading to either of these, let us know. We want to coordinate and do something special for you. And rumor has it, we have a special item of swag for y'all if you come by our booth. And as I mentioned already, if you haven't already, please join our Discord community. I put the link in the chat. Go ahead, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And also, as I mentioned, keep an eye out for that short survey after this. Please be as honest as possible. We do read every response. I either sleep like a baby after reading them or don't sleep at all. So please submit those. We take it seriously and it helps fuel what's to come later on. And yeah, thank you again for joining. I hope to see you at one of those events, in our Discord server, or in our next office hours. Next office hours, every first Thursday. The next one is going to be in the beginning of November, and we're going to discuss overall AI and automation topics and trends in our industry space. So it's going to be a good one. All
Awesome.
right. Take care, guys. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much.
guys.
Thanks,
Good to see
everyone.
you.
All the best.
Yes.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.